All right, happy Monday, everybody. So let's see, timeline. So we are 9 days till the end of the milestone. And I have created, sorry, I didn't copy folks earlier. The planning issue's been out there for a little while. Thanks, Matias, for adding the telemetry and what was the other one that you had? The action cable notes on there. So I've added those as themes. We can start working on breaking down issues and lining up 13.2. There's some stuff that's been carried over to 13.2 that needs to be cleaned up as well. So take a look. I know there's some things that are being worked on right now that will spawn some more issues. So please feel free to add them to 13.2. I know there's a lot that's still in 13.1 that we talked about last week. We were going to keep an eye on that will probably be kicked over to 13.2. So with that, once we're done kind of going through the progress update, we can look at what's in 13.1, start moving things over, and maybe even kick some things out of 13.2, because I think there's a couple things will probably end up just in our backlog. So, and on to Blame Controller.
Yeah, Blame Controller consists of two parts, non-API and API, and we merged our first merge request on non-API part, and I'm monitoring the logs, and let's see the 10K results soon, if there will be any difference or not. So next action will depend on this.
Yeah, and there is an improvement from me. I'm still preparing the MR, but this will affect both API and non-API controllers. So yeah, we will see the impact, but it should save several seconds on both sides.
To Blob Controller, there is no low-hanging fruit, from my opinion, like as simple as it was in Blame Controller, but I opened a merge request with a couple of improvements, and I'm looking into Banzai, how it works, and to see if there is some way to reduce the time, but I need to spend a bit more time on this. So 2 CI minutes. The only issue left is QA track, and I created a possible scenario description, and I have a question. So we may discuss it, I think. So should we just create an issue and handle it to QA team to help us with this, or should we do something else? So that's it. But we finished, we dropped feature flags and all this kind of stuff.
My opinion is like create a dedicated issue for that particular one and close the one that we have now.
Okay, I also think the same.
Are you going to create that, Alexei?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Telemetry, Matias.
Yeah, so the current state is that kind of the small MVC that we had defined is on its way. I think the main problem we're still struggling with is a bit like actually testing this because yeah, the complication is that we're not actually building this for .com where it would be easy to test. And it's because it currently only works for single node deployments. So there's some extent of local testing you can do, but like once basically the data leaves your container, we're not totally sure what's happening right now. So we need to catch up with the telemetry team to see if that it's actually working. But generally speaking, the data should be prepared to be stored. I mean, what's kind of missing as well, I think that's something to catch up with Chinyu is, I'm not sure if it's like automatically accepted by the versions API endpoint already. Like if it's sufficient to just have a new database column for this, or if we also need to extend the endpoint, but I'm not clear on. That's something Chinyu is looking into. Yeah, but other than that, we have the data model defined, and there's an OpenMR as well that adds like Ruby process metrics for, that would be Sidekick and web, of course. And I'm working on a third MR that I haven't linked here. I just opened it, which would extend this to some, I would say most of our non-Ruby processes to also have some process-related info, but with a couple exceptions. But yeah, it's on its way.
Performance instrumentation. I didn't touch this since last week. it was mostly concentrated on this blame blob story. But from what I see, so should the next step be to communicate with groups, PMs, EMs, and to ask them to provide the appropriate like feature pages, or what?
Yeah, so the answer there, so the product team has already identified North Star metrics for all the groups and some AMAU and supporting metrics. So for the most part, we should already have this documented in the handbook, but I do plan to ask them which pages correspond to these. Just I can make guesses for each group here, but I do want to ask them because I think the MVC could be, the smallest thing could be to just have a Grafana page dedicated to each group and then have like a site speed page load test for each of them. Like that might be the smallest thing and it wouldn't require any sort of engineering work. I did poll the product team and asked folks what they used to understand the performance of their workflows today. And effectively the answer was nothing. So that they use GetLab and that's how they understand if it's something slow or not. So I think just having a page of like, here are your workflows and here how slow they are would be a good first iteration. Ideally, I would love to get this into Sisense, but that can be a further iteration once we have the data being collected. And then obviously the journeys can be like connecting the pages can be another iteration from there. So I think that's my idea for iteration here at this point in time, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Josh. I like it. And to understand correctly, that the next couple of days we will put this on hold. I mean, from our development side, and could concentrate on particular slow endpoints, right?
Yeah, so I think okay. Let's stay focused on
Okay.
Okay. So Chinyu, who's hopefully asleep, is working on the Rails boot time, and he got some feedback from Stan just a few hours ago, actually, about speeding up grape load time without much effort. I linked to a comment there, so he's continuing to work on that. And then CI, atomic processing, composite status. Camille, so yeah, there was an issue that was raised over, I think last week, and I created a separate issue that I believe was a duplicate issue. Make sure we're looking at one. Oh yeah, it was. I ended up closing that one out. So can this issue itself be closed? Is there any more work that needs to be done on this one?
Like enable for the last finite time, I hope, and see that it's working for the next few days.
Okay.
Because like I am actually like I was waiting for this fix to run, but I noticed that like it did run on like the first day in the evening, and like we miss that, like we could enable that on Friday. So Nicola said that he gonna enable that after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully for the last time.
Rise and repeat as many times as needed.
All right.
It's becoming so boring to enable that like whatever, let's enable that for everyone. What else can go wrong?
Sure.
And then when I was going through backlog, we had a bunch of general bucket of work towards metrics, and I was wondering if there was an overall epic these should be bucketed into. And I think it's mostly Nicola's working on these. Are these all related, or are they just individual metrics that we're creating and aren't necessarily related?
Well, at the moment, the most important one is this instrument a number of database calls. And this one is almost merged. So I think I just need to fix a pipeline, and I hope that Camille can merge it. But there are a lot of refactoring in the first one. This make GitLab metric transaction. And here I'm trying just to like make all those transactions more consistent because we have different implementations in different places. But this is a huge MR and probably it will be broken in the smaller ones. So I asked Craig on our one-on-one like about priority because we now have these slow endpoints. This MR is ready, like it's working, it's tested, but it's huge and it will probably need to be splitted before merged. Because I think it's a little bit risky to be like just deployed like this in production.
Okay, so you were asking if you should focus on this or finishing up the slow endpoints?
Yeah.
Josh, do you have an opinion on that? I think finishing up the endpoint and then decomposing this, as Nicola mentioned, would probably be the right priority.
Yeah, and this, I think I agree. Let's finish up the performance work first. Although, yeah, I think it makes the most sense.
Okay. Should we push this into 13.2 then, Nicola? Do you think you're going to be able to finish this and have it deployed by next week?
Yeah, I think we should move it to 13.2.
Okay.
Because it will probably be closed and split into separate MRs because it's huge.
Okay. Let's see, and then detect and reduce. So the question still remains: Are these related at all? Do they need to be bucketed under some general metrics or performance epic, or do we just leave them as individual issues?
Maybe we should just connect it to better readability. The push timing and measurements to service layer is done, but it's still not injected. I think I didn't check this week, but it wasn't injected in our Elasticsearch last time I checked. So I need to ping someone from observability team to see what is the status of this.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one, detect and reduce amount of cache, is partly included in this instrumentation because now we will be able to keep track of these cache SQL queries, which will probably help us to detect N+1 queries that are cached, but it will not solve the issue itself. And I'm not actively working on this one.
Camille, you want to verbalize what you're typing?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the random comment, like cached has impact on the memory usage, specifically GC and things like that. So as soon as we have that, we could take a look at the endpoints that have like the high number of the cached queries and see if we can like, if there is some low hanging fruit that we could fix.
Yeah. So basically it's connected and blocked by this instrument number of the database calls because database calls will provide a way to see number of cached SQL queries by endpoint. So this is something that we should pick next when this is merged. Or I will pick it.
Okay.
Well, as for the import-export performance pipeline, I didn't check the issue, but I think I will. And about handling it, to be honest, I think that we should handle it. Maybe after fixing this issue, at least identifying, because what's your opinion? I don't think that we are working on it. So maybe it could be handled to import-export team.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
channel.
I kind of agree. I mean, I cheekily asked it because, I mean, I think it is a good tool to have. And I mean, we built it, but I don't want to fall into this trap where the memory team like starts these initiatives to get into more insight into something and then continues to own all these pipelines on behalf of the teams. I think we should be an enabler. We should build these tools and help getting insight into problems and then hand these over to the teams that own the part of the product. And if there's a problem with imports, where like some stale record blocks the whole import, which is interesting, right? Because it actually crashes the whole import, even though we added this like catch-all thing that should track it into just a failed relation, but it appears to be just like crashing the whole import. If that is a problem, that might be reproducible in production because it is a test import after all, right? I mean, that's a product issue, right? So I'm wondering, like, should we like make them more aware of this? Like, I think the import team maybe should be looking at this as well, right? Because it is like a test of that product that runs every day.
Okay, so our import or export phase like with the fatal error, right?
Yeah.
Today, and should we really like start with the issue or like some investigation if this is like S1 or S2 type of the problem?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Yeah.
Because like I'm kind of worried, like we see an error which is kind of fatal and we do not make action and we wait on deciding whether to make action. I think in such cases, if we see something like so abnormal, like we should make an action. Like
no,
like
I agree with this, but the question is more that this will happen again. So should we continue to like be the team responsible for monitoring all this stuff, like for the next, yeah, whatever, in perpetuity, or do we want to like actually hand this over? I think it would be better like once that this tool is built and we have all this insights that we can pull out of it. I think the team that builds this product should look at these things. So I'm saying they shouldn't be, we can do this now, but like I think we shouldn't move into a mode where we're responsible for monitoring everyone else's stuff that it doesn't break. That's my only concern.
Yeah, agreed. I think we should hand this off to the import team. Anybody have any suggestions on the best way to do that? Is there documentation, permissions? What steps do we need to take to fully hand that over? And then I can coordinate.
I mean, we can definitely start with the bug report. I can open that. And then maybe we can open a migration issue or something with instructions for how that pipeline is used. And yeah, like copying the import team on it. See if that is something they are comfortable with taking on.
Okay. All right, you said open a bug report and a migration issue.
Yeah, I would handle it separately because like there's the actual bug, like or the problem to look at, but then there's the question of like, you know, what happens if it happens again?
Yep. Okay. And I can sync up with the manager. It's Liam. Okay. And Camille, you got the next one, feature flags.
yeah, so I've had some calls like last week with the groups that are responsible for dog fooding feature flags. We kind of have, I mean, not me, they have like a few things to think about that, how to dog food feature flags. And I also kind of got, let's say maybe not a green light, but like other parties are fine like with the changes that I'm introducing to YAML. So I got like half of my work done so far from what I planned. So I'm now like working on the second half, which is like reflected by this POC. I merged like two big MRs so far that unify the feature flags usage and update documentation and a bit more abstraction. Now it's like this hard part, which is like actually merging the YAML definitions, which I have to like dissect from this big POC. So this is actually my next step to follow on.
Okay, thank you. So let's take a look at the unassigned work that's still in our milestone. Matias, this is most closely related to what you're working on right now. Is this going to make it in 13.1 or should we start moving stuff over to 13.2?
Sorry, hang on. Add ability for customers to turn off telemetry.
Mm-hmm.
I think we said that already exists, right? I thought we closed that one. Is that still open? Because the usage, there's no such thing as like only turning off like one metric. It's just the whole usage ping is on or off. Is that good enough?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think anybody's working on this one yet, so we should probably move this over.
No, like we didn't even had like some I think like overall people do agree with that, but like we didn't figure out exactly how it could be done. But if you would have to like improve forking model, this would be like the prerequisite for that. So at least for now, correct, I would likely put that into backlog to consider that as part of the bucket of like, I don't know, the starting or like idle memory usage like improvements, because like all of that would be maybe like a part of like these two gigabytes Raspberry Pi or something like that. It's kind of like starting to build up, and I'm not sure exactly what we want to do that. And this could be like one of the sites to look at the problem of improving memory usage. So, Josh, maybe like do we have maybe some epic that would catch like these, I don't know, structural memory improvements? Because like these 2 gigabyte ones would be probably one of these like idle or structural, or like how how we would name it, like or maybe like the another aspect, like saying epic running GitLab on like more constrained environments. And like this could be like one of that.
Yeah, I think we do. I'll check. I'm just pulling up there's the GitLab on Raspberry Pi, which I think we could probably just maybe rename for running in constrained environment, because it's not always about Raspberry Pi, but yeah. It's this one here. I'll just paste it into the doc.
Because like these and like all the other ones related to forking, action cable forking, this will be pretty much like part of that bucket, I guess, like running up on like memory constrained environments.
Yeah, I like that idea, because there's a lot that came kind of out of the action cable discussion, but if we were to work on it, it's actually not just action cable related, because yeah, like GitLab as a whole, I guess, would benefit from it. So it makes sense.
It's like also like this raise boot time and what is like Genie right now working, it also falls onto that, like running it up on constrained environments, basically.
So Josh, you want to rename this epic to running GitLab on a memory constrained environment?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
Okay. Sorry, that was more of a question. I know there are some folks that are still keeping an eye on the Raspberry Pi goal. How are we going to handle that? Is it just going to be part of the description that it lends itself to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can make a separate epic for Raspberry Pi, but the overlap is really high.
Yeah.
Right. And so I feel like if there's anything that's specific about a Raspberry Pi, that can go into a Raspberry Pi epic, but none of these things I don't think are specific about running on Raspberry Pi. It's always about running on a more memory constrained device, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'd rather have this be about memory constrained, and then we can have a separate epic if you want to on a Raspberry Pi. So I think you already support running on a Raspberry Pi today.
No, I totally agree that it's a better title and better relation to the epics, or sorry, the issues that are already listed within the epic. I just didn't know if from the product side, like Sid and Jerry, if they're still really excited about getting GitLab running on Raspberry Pi, or if it's more of a like a secondary goal. And I mean, the Raspberry Pi is a bit of a moving target with the way the hardware changes year over year anyway. So I like the idea of changing the name of the epic anyway. I was just curious if you knew if there was anybody that's really excited or really pushing for us to get it running on Raspberry Pi at the moment.
I think it's just a test case for a memory constrained environment.
All right.
So it's an easy way to say, can you run in a 2 gig memory environment? And the say yes or no.
So maybe looking at the outcome, like probably like the outcome of this epic, we want to reduce requirements for running GitLab. Today it says 4 gigs of RAM plus 4 gigs of swap. So maybe like the intent really is like to have the issue or like epic that says reduce the requirements to like 2 gigs maybe for running GitLab, because like I think that this is what Sid was kind of really like saying between words, like what takes us to change our requirements to be lower, or like in what circumstances running on 2 gigs or like 3 gigs or whatever else would be acceptable.
Yep, I agree. I think it's also a quick question around, personally, I run GitLab on a lot of 4 gig machines without any swap whatsoever at GCP, because that's the default and it runs fine, at least for limited use cases, of me banging on it and testing CI and doing things like that. So I think also some of our minimum recommended or minimum requirements are a bit high. Grant, I think you're maybe taking a bit of a look at that,
there is also like very interesting aspect. Maybe like it's still like intent would be we reduce requirements, but maybe we align requirements to the actual machine size, because like Grant like rightfully mentioned recently that like on the Google Cloud, and I believe also on the AWS, like you don't have 4 gig machines, you have 3.5 gig machines. So maybe like it's also like align ourselves like to this like the lowest common denominator, which is like it's gonna run fine on the 3.5, which is like you can run that on the Google Cloud without like us saying that you need require 4 gigs, but there is like no machine that gives you like 4 gigs on the Google Cloud. It's like 3.5. So maybe we could certify that on this 3.5 to be like the most common denominator, and like the first step, like we change our requirements to be fine with saying that this is like the 3.5, it's good enough for running GitHub for that scale.
Yeah, I agree with your, I think we should have a exit criteria for this epic, and that makes sense to me. It's a good also point on I think we could have one step of supporting 3.75 gigs or whatever. That's the GCP size. I'm looking at Amazon right now. And then we could have another further iteration of one that's, 2 gigs for a Raspberry Pi if we can get there. Trying to find out what the... So Amazon says, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I was just wondering, because we're talking about it already, would it be useful as part of the topology data that we collect to collect some kind of like machine class from the customer as well? Because I don't know, do we actually know right now how many customers are running a Raspberry Pi, say? So, and I don't know like how we would identify this, but I thought that might be interesting to track, like when they, for self-managed installations, like what kind of, however we would classify the machine type. If that's something that would be useful to track as well, do you think?
Yeah, it would. I think in particular for the Raspberry Pi, just to help understand how valuable that is or isn't. We do collect the package types right now, and I think we also do attempt to pull back something on like machine type. But I think it's more about the cloud provider than it is about the machine type right now. I have to go look and see what's available. I think there's like a, I don't know, there's some kind of detection in there that tries to do this. But that'd be great if we can, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It also might be interesting to pull back like total memory on the nodes. Or although that's available today, like in the usage pane, it's available today by Node Explorer, right? But
that's what we're definitely including in the
cool.
in the MVC. For we have node memory, the total node memory is already in there, so that should give us some idea of what kind of device is it. I guess if it's 32 gigs, it's probably not a Raspberry Pi, not yet at least.
But if it's 8, you don't know really anymore.
I think it runs high, or I think that's what we were trying to do for some of this stuff. I'll link it. How to chef, but I'm not totally sure how this. Anyways, I'll try and look into it.
I always wondered if there are customers that run a whole fleet of Raspberry Pis for GetLab, like a Redis node and a Cyclic node, dedicated Pi.
We have some people who definitely run Kubernetes clusters on Raspberry Pis or something like that. I'm not really sure how effective it is, but it looks cool.
Camille had another question to you, Matias. Can we send the architecture?
Probably. That's a really good. I would suspect that's part of the node exporter data. I can have a look. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a really good idea. Mm-hmm.
It's not even. Maybe it's not even part of the node exporter, but it could be like LSB release or like uname or something like that.
Yeah. So for single node, that's always easy to do because we can go beyond Prometheus and just get it from the current machine. The problem really is when you need to do it for more than one node, because if you run like 10 different nodes that run all kinds of things, then we need some kind of external data store to query for what all these machines are, basically. But yeah, like if it is in Prometheus in some way, shape, or form, then we can also get it back up.
Do we need separate issues for both of these in machine type and architecture?
I need to create a bunch of follow-up issues anyway.
Okay.
I have a couple other questions on my mind around the whole topology stuff. So let me just, I'll do it. Okay. I might not do like one specific issue for these, but yeah, I'll look into it.
There's the uname that comes back in Node Exporter.
Okay. All right, back to this. Got that one moved out. Sidekick cluster should preload before forking. I'm assuming nobody's working on that.
Yes, it's basically like part of probably the previous story. Like we could probably start pretty big topic of improving preload efficiency to improve the memory usage.
Okay. I'm going to move to 13.2 for now.
And I think the next one as well is kind of the same bucket.
Okay.
Do we follow like the bootstrap being enabled for GitLab? Do we know what is the state of that?
I think it got turned on for the Helm charts and the container and the cloud native container images. I don't know where else it went. Let me find the issues for you.
This one I'm assuming is not being worked on.
No, I don't think so. So the issue was fixed, I think, because it all came up after that pipeline failed. So someone from that team contacted us and was asking, "Hey, do you still use this?" And back then I didn't know that existed, so it was cool to find it. So I think that was just kind of like a follow-up thought, or what we would do to make that a bit more visible, because no one was looking at it because it was broken for a while. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if that's still a good idea. I guess that was just like an attempt at thinking about what do we do with all this useful data that we collect, but that's so buried away in places that just like, it's kind of useless because no one looks at it. There might be a better way to go about it. I would put it on the backlog, like just, yeah, put it on the backlog.
That's not what I wanted. Nope.
Yes, I think this one we should definitely still do because it has come up like kind of tangentially that we have these derailed reports and we sort of looked at them in like smaller scope as part of other issues. But like if you look at these files, there's a bunch of stuff that sounds like it's quite chunky and where you really wonder, do we really need to load all of this, you know, in every kind of application we load? And you know, I don't know, maybe the answer is yes, but like that was the thing as well, where I noticed there's this GraphQL schema file that we load that's 52 megabytes, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe we need GraphQL schemas everywhere, but maybe not, you know, maybe Action Cable doesn't need it. So there might be some chunky things that it's one of these, like, just like, yeah, try out a bunch of things, I guess.
It's probably like, it's probably part of really like of this big aspect, like how we can selectively load application, because like do we need GraphQL in the side key or like API routes and things like that? I don't know. We probably are losing a ton of memory and like boot up time by doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. I've moved it off to 13.2 and we've got quite a grouping of memory improvement issues now rolling into 13.2. So docs in the way. Okay. Last one. So
yeah, this one I'm really unsure about. I think Camille, I think you haven't, because we sort of touched on this in the GCK MR about the node exporter. So basically, yeah, when we started looking at exporting this topology information that we query from Prometheus, the first thing we noticed was that if you run a local omnibus, there's only really two labels that are attached to all of these targets, which is the instance and the job. So that's what we started using because it's what we had. Yeah, so I don't know if we want to, because that's not quite what we do on .conf, for instance. We have like a more refined like label setup. You know, we subdivide further these different kinds of Rails deployments that we have, right? We have a particular cluster just for API, just for Git, just for web workloads, probably soon for Action Cable even. So I don't know, like I opened the issue because I don't have an answer to this or who to talk to about this even, but maybe we should be looking into making like by default, like adding more specific labels that also maybe clearly identify the role of this particular node that we're scraping. Yeah, that's how this issue came up. So I filed it on telemetry. It's not blocking, like it's not blocking us from doing anything right now, but it makes things a bit imprecise, right? Because right now, yeah, we can only look at the job, which will be GitLab Rails for everything sort of, yeah, unicorn or Puma related, I guess. So it's not useful to say, oh, that is like an API node or like a web node.
Like my opinion is like we should not base our logic on labels. You can join metrics together to perform these classifications.
Okay, interesting.
Because like because labels are kind of like flaky. It's like we probably saw like that we already have this like the difference between omnibus and like our production, and probably like Kubernetes handlers have something completely different as well. And like labels also have this deficiency that what happens if on the single node run side key race and everything? Well, like, can we classify if these components are separate, or can we classify if these components are like bundled together on the single installation?
Well,
I don't know.
it works with the local deployment. That's all I had to test. But yeah, it's a good question.
I think that we can really like do it like with just knowing metrics. That if you run SideKey, you have this kind of metrics that represents you that the application is running SideKey. If you run Puma, you know you have this metric. You can then match them like with the.
I don't think that's going to work because they're all metrics are in one Prometheus server. So how do you know what node they?
Yeah, instance, for example.
Oh, if you join them all over the instance, yeah, sure.
Because like then like let's say that like you get information about the 16 nodes by instance, and then for each instance you can attach exactly whether this is running SideKey, Puma, or whatever else, and what is the memory usage of each of these components by using our SMEM that we already have. So this should give you pretty much, I think, all the details that you need and allow you to classify if this node is like purely Gitary or SideKey or something like that. I don't know exactly how you send that.
It's an interesting thought, yeah.
But I think we can join like different metrics together to perform this classification from different exporters, basically.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting thought.
Do we want to close this or put it on the backlog for consideration for later then?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should do this in a more problem-oriented way, because one thing I mentioned earlier we struggle with is testing this whole thing, because I can only really test between two extreme environments. One is .com, which but actually by now I can't test it because what we have right now only works for single node deployments. And so what I use for testing as a single node deployment is just a local omnibus container with like the vanilla config, you know, like not changed. And I don't know what users change. You know, maybe they attach, you know, all kinds of different labels or remove these. So yeah, we have no control over that. So that's a fair point. Yes. So maybe if we can tackle this more from a, let's actually verify this against like representative setups. Maybe that's something QA can help with, where we have, because we have these different reference architectures for testing, right? That we spin up and down. I think they're just ephemeral environments, right? In GCP that we spin up and then back down. But maybe we can get some, GCP time to test like our usage data ping on one of these to even see how it looks like. Just access to a Prometheus instance would suffice, I guess, just to see like what even happens like when we have 5 different nodes. I was only able to like kind of approximate that for now.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Raise an issue on our tracker and we can set up a time that you can give you access to that.
Cool. All right. I'll just open a thread somewhere and then we can sync there.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you need to make any changes to the environment, or you just need to see it?
No, I think it would be fine just to see it. Like if we had, it would have to be one where a Prometheus is running. Oh, but
yeah,
this all then, you know what the problem is? This is like this whole vicious cycle where like we can't actually test this right now because we don't yet have the support for querying an external Prometheus. So I think that's maybe the thing that hinges everything on that we need to do next. So because for the MVC, we can only actually get data for single node deployments anyway. But yeah, in a future iteration, we can.
Yeah, just give us a shout. We can definitely give you the access to the previous node and you can have a look. Yep.
That would be great. Thank you, Grant.
Okay, everything that was not assigned has been either assigned or moved on. 13.2, we have a lot of work that's in there. So this week, take a look at the planning issue, add some comments. And I know there's some issues that are going to be created as a result of some of the conversations we've had today. Please add them to 13.2 and anything you think would be related to the work you're doing now. And we can iterate asynchronously on what's planned for 13.2 now. I think there's some things that will be kicked out. We have about 3 minutes left. There's one thing that's under the not to verbalize, but I'm going to anyway. So I don't know if anybody caught it, but there is a new bot out there that will track all the idle merge requests. So anything that's older than 4 weeks, it's going to link in there. I'm going to ask for some updates to the bot to include the author to make it easier so you don't have to click through all of them. Take a look, see if you have anything lingering out there, and either update or close it so that it is removed from the report. And then is there anything else we need to cover for today? All right, and we'll take that as a no. Thanks everybody, happy Monday, and I will continue to work with Josh and work with everybody async on the planning issue for 13.2.
See you folks.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.